Beto O'Rourke is putting on a political Houdini act. He is reinventing who he is pretty much on a daily basis. He is actively lying about who he is. And the media is standing by, letting it go. I actually just interviewed, it's up on the channel, a senior in college who is more of a journalist, asking Beto O'Rourke a question. When Beto O'Rourke went to Penn State University, she was tougher and more of a journalist than any journalist on NBC, MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, you name it. Beto O'Rourke is going around the country, I don't care what religion you are, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you believe, I don't care what your ideology, I'll be whatever you want me to be. And he certainly will, because he will say whatever he has to, and he will be whatever he has to. And that kind of reminds me of somebody named Barack Obama. So, this isn't getting any attention, but apparently activists at his rally in New Hampshire asked him, what will you sign the No Fossil Fuel pledge? This was 2 nights ago. Let's see.
If you have facts on here, I would sign it, but yeah, so.
I'll give you my card and we'll just put it in and later.
Right there. He says no.
I'll give you my card and we'll just put it in and later.
Beto O'Rourke refuses to sign the No Fossil Fuel pledge. Well, that kind of makes sense since he violated the No Fossil Fuel pledge while running for Texas Senator. That story was broken, I believe, by Sludge, where he was taking money from big oil executives and fossil fuel executives. So why is it that Mr. O'Rourke won't sign the No Fossil Fuel pledge? Might have something to do with the fact that he is expecting to bundle a lot of money. Campaign bundling is when high dollar donors are able to raise a lot of money for you as well as donating a lot of money for you. So what's interesting here is Beto O'Rourke recently came out saying he made $6.1 million in 24 hours. And of that 6.1, he wouldn't say, how many people donated, what was the average dollar donation, like Bernie Sanders, $27. Bernie Sanders had 223,000 unique donors. So now Beto O'Rourke comes out saying, we had 128,000 unique contributions, not donors, unique contributions at $47 a pop. So first of all, that is just under 100,000 less than Bernie Sanders, but that's also not unique donors, which I incorrectly said during my interview with that Penn State senior. So I correct that. It's 128,000 unique contributions. So basically, he could have had one rich person donate several times to reach the max donation limit, which I believe is $2,800. So we don't know how many people, unique individuals, separate human beings, donated in that first 24 hours to Beto O'Rourke. It could have been some people repeatedly donating, and frankly, $47 a pop, it's not mega millions, it's still technically, you could say, that's relatively small dollar donations, but it's it's $20 higher on average than Bernie Sanders, which would show you more people sent higher dollar amounts and more people maxed out at $2,800, which would show you this was not as grassroots as Beto O'Rourke and then the media, who's just regurgitating whatever he says, wanted you to believe. So that might be why he didn't want to release that information. But it was this college student that I interviewed who put out there, her name is Leslie Johnson. And let's see what Leslie had to say to Mr. O'Rourke at Penn State University.
But my concern is how much of that is coming from a process which is called bundling. For those of you who don't know, bundling is a process in which political activists and people in the private sector and lobbyists go to wealthy multimillionaires and billionaires and basically tell them to give the maximum, which is normally anywhere from $2,700 to $5,600, and basically use it to sort of overinflate a campaigner's, their first day totals. For example, just 1,000 people paying the maximum $5,600, that's $5.6 million right off the bat. Your campaign has not released the number of individual donors you have, nor has it released the average donation. Now, I'm not accusing you of that, but the fact that your campaign is currently working with notorious mega bundler Louis Sussman gives me a bit of a clue. In addition, when we look on your website, we don't really see anything in terms of a solid platform for policies. It's mostly just platitudes and a merch store. So I guess two-pronged question. One, are you going to...
Please allow her to ask the question.
Yeah, so two-pronged question, I guess. One, are you going to release the number of individual donors and their average donor donation? Because I know your campaign has that data. If it didn't, it would mean you'd be running a very incompetent campaign, and I don't think you are. You seem like you have your stuff together mostly. And two, when are we going to get an actual policy from you instead of just like platitudes and nice stories?
Thank you. So the answer to your thanks everybody. So the answer to your first question is yes. In addition to how much we raised, the fact that we raised it from all 50 states, the fact that we took not a dime from a single PAC or lobbyist, we will release the average and the number of donors. To your second question,
when?
To your second question about policy. I'm going to try to be as specific as I can. I mentioned our criminal justice system. I've called for the end of the prohibition on marijuana and the expungement of the arrest records of everyone who's been arrested for marijuana. I've been doing that for a long time. On the question of healthcare, you talked about universal guaranteed high quality healthcare. You asked the path to get there. Two extraordinary women with whom I've served in Congress, Jan Schakowsky of Illinois, Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, have introduced a proposal called Medicare for America that ensures that if you have employer-based insurance and you like it, you keep it. Your doctors, your network, what works for you right now. If you don't have insurance or you don't like the insurance you already have, you enroll in Medicare. Costs a lot of money. It will be measured in the trillions of dollars. It is not inexpensive. As I made the point, and I hope the case earlier, it's a lot less expensive than taking care of people at end of life who've never been treated in the first place. When it comes to public school education, paying teachers a living wage and starting public education not in kindergarten at 5 years old, but in pre-K at 4 years old, universally for every single child.
First of all, what a sad commentary on America that a 21-year-old Penn State senior, who is brilliant, by the way, Leslie Johnson, go check out my interview with her after the clip we spoke. What a sad commentary that she, a 21-year-old, is more well-read, is more brave, has more integrity, and knows more than any journalist I've seen in the field covering Beto O'Rourke. This is a question that you would expect from an actual journalist to know who is bundling for Beto O'Rourke, what his positions are and are not, what bundling is, when he's going to give us any policy. I mean, bravo to her, but it's also a sad commentary because that's what's missing. That's actually why status quo exists. I would love to have the funding right now to follow Mr. O'Rourke around and get in his face journalistically. We preach love because, trust me, you think I got some questions for Donna Brazil? Wait until I get Beto O'Rourke. So, first of all, his answers were ridiculous too. Okay, you're for ending criminalization of marijuana, great. Your answer on Medicare, this is a mangled thing. Why? I wish she didn't have time, but how about a follow up? Well, why 6 months ago were you for Medicare for all, but now you're not? What changed? Why was Medicare for all the gold standard for you when you were running for the Senate and trying to convince your primary challenger, Sema Hernandez, to endorse you? Because according to Sema Hernandez, his primary opponent in the Texas Democratic primary for Senate, Beto O'Rourke said, if you endorse me and trying to get her voters, I'll be for Medicare for all as a senator. So now all of a sudden you're running for president, but it's too expensive? Yeah, no. That's called, that's like a mix of a Mitt Romney meets Hillary Clinton, day at the beach with flip-flops. That's some flip-floppery. So, yeah, his other answers, I don't want to hear about climate change because Beto O'Rourke voted to let oil companies drill offshore. He voted to lift the cap on foreign oil exports. He's voted for a lot of terrible things, and he's not for a Green New Deal. He said, I'm for a Green New Deal," whatever that means. And he won't sign the no fossil fuel pledge, so I think we know where he stands. And that student, Leslie Johnson, brought up this bundler who is a heavy donor to and bundler formerly for President Obama. So, one of former U.S. Rep. Beto O'Rourke's supporters from his 2018 Senate campaign has been reaching out to top Democratic Party donors to see if they will will back him to run for president in 2020. Louis Sussman, former U.S. ambassador to the UK and a lead bundler for Barack Obama's first presidential campaign, has been speaking with political financiers from around the country, including those in the financial industry, to see if they will invest in O'Rourke's campaign, according to people with direct knowledge of the outreach. Talk about grassroots. The former Obama backer has put together a string of senior party donors who are willing to contribute to the former congressman's presidential operation, said the people, who declined to be named due to the conversations being deemed private. In an interview with CNBC, Sussman says the people he's talked to about donating to the campaign are family and friends. He added, everyone is excited to go, while noting he's been in touch with O'Rourke's campaign and coordinating his efforts with them. He declined to say who these donors are or which industries they are from. Quote, "Whatever I do it in coordination with the campaign," Sussman said. He said there's no discussion about him becoming a campaign finance chairman, and he has not recently spoken with O'Rourke himself. He's confident the former Texas senator will be successful in the fundraising circuit. Quote, "I don't think, whether it's through large bundlers or small donors, that he's going to have a tough time raising money." Well, actually, that's not true, because we actually don't know what was the nature of the money he got in that first day, because he just said 128,000 unique contributions, not donors. So I don't know how many times that guy, Louis Sussman, donated. He could have donated, I don't know, 7 times to reach the max amount. And that's 7 unique contributions. So I'm not saying Beto O'Rourke didn't raise a healthy amount of money. I'm saying I don't know how much of it came from the grassroots versus big bundlers, and I'm pretty sure that's why he didn't automatically release that information. He says, I choose not to, as far as releasing that information to you. I choose not to. Well, maybe because he knew it was coming in large part from those donors discussed in those stories, which would kind of pop that lid on the grassroots campaign, the everyman Beto O'Rourke. No. It's not the thing. And honestly, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be hard to prove that. Beto O'Rourke is selling a whole lot of hot air, and eventually it's going to catch up with him. Because I haven't covered one of his events yet, but from what I see in his speeches, it is a lot of hot air. And it's nice to talk about inclusiveness. It's nice to talk about, I don't care what you believe, your religion, your race, your political ideology, whatever. But you still voted for a $715 billion defense budget. You still voted to offshore drill. You still voted to lift the cap on foreign exports, oil. You still voted to deregulate the banking industry, and you voted with Trump 30% of the time as a congressman. So, come on. And he actually voted, get this, Beto O'Rourke as a councilman, or when he was running for Congress, was against Obamacare. Now, I'm not a champion of Obamacare, but Beto O'Rourke actually was working with the GOP. This is from Common Dreams, you have to read this story. Reinventing Beto, how a GOP accessory became a top Democratic contender for 2020. To understand Beto O'Rourke as a candidate, it's vital to go beneath the surface of his political backstory. News watchers are already well aware of the former Texas congressman's good looks, charisma, youthful energy, and fundraising prowess. But most remain unaware of an inconvenient truth that could undermine the O'Rourke campaign among the people who matter most, the ones who will be voting to choose the Democratic presidential nominee next year. O'Rourke is hardly eager for those upcoming voters to realize that the growth of his political career is rooted in an alliance with powerful Republicans that began 15 years ago, or that he supported raising the minimum age for Social Security in 2012, or that during 6 years in Congress, through the end of 2018, he often aligned himself with Republican position. If facts matter, such weighty facts could sink for the Beto for America presidential campaign. Since his announcement, information gaining traction nationwide runs directly counter to the Beto brand. Before becoming a rising star in the Democratic Party, the Wall Street Journal reported a week ago, Beto O'Rourke relied on a core group of business-minded Republicans in his Texas hometown to launch and sustain his political career. To win their backing, Mr. O'Rourke opposed Obamacare, voted against Nancy Pelosi as the House Democratic leader, well, I don't disagree with that, and called for a raise in the Social Security eligibility age. Meanwhile, a Washington Post news article under the headline Beto O'Rourke's political career drew on donations from the pro-Republican business establishment also foreshadowed a bumpy ride on the campaign trail. In the eyes of most people who don't like the GOP, key points in the Post reporting are apt to be concerning. For instance, several of El Paso's richest business moguls donated to and raised money for O'Rourke's city council campaigns, drawn to his support for a plan to redevelop El Paso's poorest neighborhoods. Some later backed a super PAC that would play a key role in helping him defeat an incumbent Democratic congressman. O'Rourke worked on issues that had the potential to make money for some of his benefactors. His support as a council member for the redevelopment plan, which sparked controversy at the time because it involved relocating low-income residents, many of them Hispanic, coincided with property investments by some of his benefactors. You don't say. As a congressman, he supported a $2 billion military funding increase that benefited a company controlled by another major donor. That donor, real estate developer Woody Hunt, was friends with O'Rourke's late father. Hunt also co-founded and funds an El Paso nonprofit organization that has employed O'Rourke's wife since 2016. Wow. Central features of Trumpism are budgets that add billions to already bloated Pentagon spending while cutting essential programs. In Beto's last year in Congress, when nearly one-third of House Democrats opposed the record-breaking 2019 National Defense Authorization Act of $717 billion, Beto voted with Trump. Overall, the Post reports, quote, in contrast to the aspirational image he has fostered in recent years, O'Rourke's political career has gone along a path of, quote, winning support from a typically pro-GOP business establishment interested in swaying public policy. Born into one politically potent family and married into another, he benefited repeatedly from his relationship with El Paso's most powerful residents, including several nationally known Republican moneymen. To put his more conservative actions in context, O'Rourke cannot plausibly claim that he was striving to be in sync with the voters who elected him. El Paso and the House district that he represented are heavily Democratic. Wall Street Journal summed it up this way. In a one-party town, the Democrats have held El Paso's congressional seat for all but one term since 1902. This guy is a Republican. He's charismatic. He's got nice hair. His arms wave around nice. He's a Republican. And if you want Obama 2.0, this is Obama 2.0, and frankly, could be even worse. Thinking that says we need to raise the Social Security age, thinking that says labor unions are taking too much, which he also said in his early days, thinking that, flip-flopping from Medicare for all to Medicare, whatever he was calling it, that's not real Medicare for all, signing no fossil fuel pledge and then taking it. It's kind of, I'm not calling him Trump, but it's kind of lying without worrying about getting caught. It's lying so much that there's no ramifications for it. It's lying so much that there's no consequences for it because it's already baked into the cake that you're lying. This is what he's done. This changing positions constantly, this trying to present himself as a progressive who's inclusive to all. I mean, it's in today's age with the internet and social media, I mean, he's not going to be able to get away with it for long, even though the corporate media is bending over backwards to help him get away with it. But status quo will not. So as time develops, because I haven't had much time between traveling and now interviewing other people, I'm going to be looking in even further to Mr. O'Rourke's record. And hopefully, once we break those stories, corporate outlets will actually pay attention. But we won't hold our breath. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.